the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.
To Live Life. It's a new edition this week, and we are a part of AV Nation. Today we are talking about life on the road and what it's like to be a touring technician for a corporate gig, a rock and roll band. And with me today I've got several guests, the first of which is our esteemed producer, George Tucker.
Hello. I like the esteemed part. Can you talk to my boss? I want that on my title.
I will talk to your boss. And next up we have John Bracken of Bracken Audio.
Hello, how you doing?
And last but not least, we've got Russell Cohens from World Stage.
Hello out there.
So the common perception is that being a touring techie on a rock and roll show is glitz and glamour and everything you read about. But those of us who've been there and done that know differently. When people ask me what it's like to be on the road, I say that the only thing that changes is the color of the seats, the quality of the catering, and the intelligence of the locals. And a lot of times that's true. We don't see much of the world. We don't see much of the city. We don't see much of anything except the inside of the tour bus, the inside of the arena, and that's it. So to kick it off, John, let's tell us a little bit about your background, who you've been with.
Let's see, the past 8 years, Beach Boys, monitors, doing monitors for them. 10 years with the B-52s, monitors. 7 years with MHA Audio out of Hagerstown, Maryland. Plethora of little metal and rock and hair bands and stuff back from about 1986 till 93, I guess. You know, some of them I toured with up and down the East Coast, out in the Midwest, doing the hair metal rock circuit. Army, I was in the Army from 82 to 86. It's kind of where I got my start in audio. And, yeah, so basically been doing this since 1986.
Wow.
So,
quite a long history. What do you like? What do you like best about touring?
seeing the places. Yeah, definitely not airplane travel, but you know, being a band engineer, you have a little bit more leeway. I just got back from the UK on Friday nights. I was over there for almost 2 weeks with the Beach Boys, and we had Capitol Sound doing our audio and Neg Earth doing lights. And after the first show, we were literally, the crew were showing up like at 2:33 in the afternoon. The Beach Boys crew, everything was done. I walked in, put a few microphones on stands, and checked the ears, and we did a line check maybe at 4:30. Band came in at 5. Did a sound check, did a VIP sound check, took a break, did dinner, 8 o'clock show. You know, end of the night, 15 minutes, you know, after 15 minutes after the show, I'm done because I didn't have to touch the gear. And generally it's like that. When we travel backline, obviously we have to pack up our backline and get help the crew to help us put it in the trailer, and then we head on out. But that's kind of a typical day. Our normal load in is, you know, usually like noon or so. But like saying, you are 100% right. It's a lot of times you just wake up in a parking lot of a venue, and that's the reality of being on the road. But you know, days off, hopefully you have a nice production manager, doesn't stick you out in the middle of an interstate in a hotel somewhere 20 miles from the town. You get to be in town and actually see something.
Now, I found it hard to sleep after I got so used to sleeping over a diesel engine in a tour bus. Did you ever have that experience?
No, I get night terrors from being in the bunk. I don't like not being moving. I'm kind of a little different that way. It's like I'm a little bit claustrophobic, so when I'm in the bunk, I like the condo bunks. But you know, sometimes we don't get that luxury because we have a lot of people in the bus. I like it when we're moving. when we stop dead and everything's off, except for that little generator whine, I kind of freak out. I wake up, I don't know where I am, and I think I'm being buried alive. So it's never changed after all these years. Just like it's a luxury having a bus, but with the Beach Boys, most of our dates are fly dates. We go into a city and we either stay at an airport hotel or in downtown somewhere, and usually the next day we're up and out like 5 or 6 in the morning. And Mike Love, who's 74 years old, he's with us, I would say, about 80% of the time at 5 in the morning, leaving hotel.
Wow.
Kind of a group effort.
Now, one time I woke up on the tour bus and it was quiet and hot. And I got out of my bunk and there was nobody on the bus and the lights were off. And I looked out the window and realized that the bus was 12 feet in the air. And the bus driver had forgotten to check the bus and took it in for maintenance in Florida.
Wow.
And they had to bring a ladder over to the bus steps to get me off of it and called me a cab.
Yep.
Wow.
I've heard of that happening, and it almost happened to me once. It's like, I'm like, I just want to stay I don't want to go in. Oh, I'm taking the bus for service. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should get off.
How about you, Russell?
I know the bus well, actually, believe it or not. I know the bus. The bus is where I watched the World Cup as long as I could before I fell asleep and woke up in Munich and woke up in Cologne, actually. And realized that we were in Germany right as they were about to take the World Cup. I always slept in the front. The front is where I fit. Yeah, I would kick everyone out. You guys can party for a little while, leave me with the Xbox, and I'm going to go to sleep.
Well, Russell, you have actually a good history with touring live. I mean, John gave us a little bit of his. Can you give us a little bit of information about what you've done and some of your experiences?
I have one small experience with World Stage, at the time, Sharf Weisberg, who I was with for 6 years before deciding to tour the world for about 3 years with Alvin Ailey. I don't know what you guys care to know about the most successful dance company in the world, or what it's like to be the audio engineer of the most successful dance company in the world, but it is touring non-stop for about 8 or 9 months out of the year, locally and internationally. And when you're back home, you're still on, whether you're doing 5 weeks at City Center or 2 weeks at Lincoln Center. But predominantly by plane. Luckily enough, touring for dance gives you from time to time a couple days sit down, or even 2 weeks sit down. But then you get to Middle America and there are a number of just one-offs, one-day offs. And we carried all of our own gear. A lot of people don't realize that, at least with the most popular dance company, being Alvin Ailey. I carried everything: PA, mixer, cable. We carried all lights, every single electric. We carried all soft goods. We carried all wardrobe. My last year we went from 3 trailers to 4.
Wow. So when you tour, though, you were going into mostly theaters, right, Russell?
Mostly theaters. We in a couple places in South America that tried to call themselves theaters.
But you typically had like theater technicians who had a pretty good clue of what they were doing and how to do electrics. And let's talk a little bit about local labor.
So that was not always true. From time to time, you were going into colleges and getting people like us years and years ago there to learn, and you were guiding them. And you are not where you were at this time yesterday. But nonetheless, still people that know what we're looking for.
I can remember going through a college town, and I saw this one girl who was a musical theater major, and she was shaking an extension cord for all she was worth. And she wasn't coiling it up right away, and I looked at her, I said, "What are you doing? Why are you shaking that cord?" She said, "Well, before I coil it up, I want to make sure all the electricity's out of it."
Wow.
Good one. Good one.
I said, "All right, I'll put that one in the books."
Yeah. Or have the college kids that wrap the cables around their fist and then they hand you this little ball. They go, "Here you go." And I'm like, "Go stand in the corner."
No, no, no.
No, I filmed on the B-52s. I'm sorry, the Beach Boys reunion tour, the 2012 reunion tour. We're playing the bigger sheds and venues, and the union for the outs would have basically they would call labor ready. They would get people. They would not have stagehands because they'll be so spread thin with other events, so they get these labor ready people, and I would give them the talk to, like, okay, you and you go out and grab that, you go out and do this, and you get this deer in the headlight look. They're like, oh. And I said, have you done this before? They're like, no. I said, do you know what a microphone is? We think so. Okay. So like 30 seconds, I had to show them, okay, 1/4 inch XLR, this is how you unhook it, this is a direct box, go collect. Everything looks like this, bring them back here. And I've had people literally unscrew the XLR from the microphone. They started pulling the damn cables out. And,
Seen that.
what are you doing? They're going, I don't know. So yeah, you have to do a lot of training. And I did a symphony show in Jacksonville a few weeks ago, and somebody came up and said, hey, I want to help you. It was one of the local union guys, and he was Electrics. I didn't ask him what job he had or anything. I was like, all right, I need some 58s here, and the dude just stood there just staring at the mic case. And I'm like, all right, this is a 58. He's like, oh, okay, thanks. I'm like, all right. And this one of these things, like, sometimes it's easier for me just to do the job myself. By the time I take to explain it or show what I need done, I'll just go do it myself. And I get it done a lot quicker.
Well, back in the day, when I was on tour with World Wrestling Entertainment, we'd go through Madison Square Garden, and they classified World Wrestling Entertainment as a sporting event, not a theatrical event. So we got the guys who set up the parquet floors for the basketballs and basketball courts and set up the chairs. We did not get stagehands.
Yeah.
So it was the longest load-in ever.
Yep.
And in January, I don't know, I'm sure you're familiar with Madison Square Garden. You got trucks coming in from both sides of the venue, and it's 5 stories up via forklift to the show floor.
Yep.
So in January, I was calling trucks until 4 o'clock in the morning, standing in that wind tunnel. It was not pleasant.
That's a rough venue, Radio City, because they have to stop for an hour after the show because they can have their dinner break. Just New York City is just a chore to work in general.
Well, I have to say that, working with the local one there, I was apprehensive. I'd been, I'd heard all these stories about working with the local one, but when I got there and actually worked with the guys, they were extremely professional, very helpful. The show couldn't have gone any easier. I mean, they were on top of their game, and, I can't say that for a lot of other cities.
No, I'm with you on that. I've only had one issue up there is the Beacon. This is back in the early 90s where, everything I've asked them to do, they did the complete opposite. And I'm like, really? It's like, this is the male in, this is the female in. The male in stays at the transformer, run the female in out to the amps. And they're standing out there yelling, sound face, sound face. It won't go together. And I'm like, because you're trying to put 2 males together. Maybe in Greenwich Village that might work. Oh, too soon, sorry. But anyway. Yeah, generally they're pretty decent up there. Just, like I said, there's always, bad apples in every bunch. It happens.
I did have a couple of electricians once hand me my feeder cable at the dimmer rack with the male hots. And I looked at the male hots, and I looked at them, and it was strung up along the wall, 15 feet in the air, all the way down out the arena to the generators. And I looked at him, I was like, wrong end, fellas. And the guy's like, don't you have turnarounds? I'm like, no.
No. Oh, yeah. Yes, I do, but no. Or, so, local crews can make or break or really mess up your day. I will say that much. And, I'm not the one guy to yell at people. It has happened in the past. You really, 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 really have to piss me off or mess up for me to raise my voice. but it does happen maybe once a year, I would say, and try to give everybody a fair shake. But sometimes you go in and you just know that your cards are stacked against you as soon as you get off the bus or just show up at the venue. Like, man, it's going to be a rough one. You can just tell sometimes.
There's only 2 times that I really lost my mind that I can think of touring, and one of them was a motor case comes into the back of a semi, and it's a college town, and we've got college kids loading the truck, and this dude gives the motor case a shove and turns around while this case comes careening down the people who are standing in the back of the truck. And, he could have broken legs with that case.
Definitely.
And, I lost my mind about that because it was a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, the PA company I used to work for back in the 90s did a lot of college work, and their boxes were like 350 pounds each, kind of like a smaller S4, if there is such a thing. And we used to stack them 3 high, and I remember being at Johns Hopkins. Yeah, I'm going to call out Johns Hopkins. And we had college kids for hands, and there's a certain way when you stack a 3 high to get that top one down. And I put the tallest, biggest kid on the front, and I was like, look, you're going to be holding 70 pounds. That's all it is when you break it up with enough people. As soon as that thing touches your hands, get the back down level. Everybody catch it, go down. As soon as the weight touches hand, the kid screamed like a little girl, ah, like that, and just ran. And the cabinet went whoosh, down.
Oh.
All right, it's all right. We got another chance. Let's try it again. Out of the 4 top boxes, they dropped all 4.
Wow.
So
you guys have much experience trying to explain your job in other languages?
Yeah, because I do international, and
I'm imagining that story with someone who doesn't understand English, and how does that go?
it's hopefully they get it. You just kind of show them. I just use my hands and be like, okay, wait and stuff. Like, I speak very little Spanish, speak a little bit of German, and hopefully they know enough English so that they won't get hurt. The past 8 years I haven't been able, everything's set up for us by the local crew, which is nice. I remember being in Acapulco with the B-52s, and they have whatever the big sound company is down there. Like, why aren't any of my condenser mics working? Oh, I look at their snake. They cut pin 1 on every input on the snake head.
Wow.
Because their way of fixing a buzz is to cut pin 1. And of course, I'm working with a band that had buku of condenser mics. So who's soldering the snake back? This kid right here. And that was one of those shows where I actually lost it because I'm trying to explain to him the problem, and then you have 8 or 10 people around all talking and yelling at each other in Spanish. And finally, I was like, give me one person that speaks English, and everybody else just walk away. Just go somewhere.
Yes.
I have a question, and I'm going to start with Russell, because, John, you've spoken about some of it, but is there a distinct difference, Russell, between touring in Europe and, I suppose, the crew and the accommodations, as opposed to touring in the U.S.? And what is that major difference? Is it technology? Is it knowledge? Is it demeanor?
The biggest difference are probably your own comfort. You're here at home. You can easily convey a problem. This is my problem, and the solution, whatever it may be, something I can speak or read. Touring somewhere else, you can't do that. The one person that John meant who did speak English is now trying to help the other department, and then suddenly you're alone, and you have to gesticulate, and I've seen this in a couple corners of the world. You got to immediately speak sound. You guys don't understand each other, but you're trying to get to the same end.
Yeah, I mean, we've had to tell crews just go to catering. In Hong Kong, we had a sound system that was so bad that the snake, everything about it was everything was wired backwards and broken. And we're like, everybody just walk away. We're going to fix it. And we had to go through every input individually, and they were running 8 different snake lines out the front of house, so through this monster splitter. And sometimes you just got to take charge of yourself just to do things and just get it done so the band can come to sound check.
They mentioned accommodations there, John. Sorry, George. You mentioned accommodation differences.
Well, yeah. I mean, is there a difference? I mean, we have the motel hotels here. We have that kind of stuff.
In every way, our 5 stars is their 3 stars.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Makes sense.
But here's one thing I'll say about European hotels, or hotels worldwide. They have a really good breakfast that's usually included in the room, or if you get your travel agent to get it included, you can have this killer breakfast, which is very nice.
Yes.
And also, the airport lounges overseas are so much better than the airport lounges in the States where they give you yogurt-covered pretzels and peanuts and crackers.
True. This is
you
true.
Get actual real food anywhere else in the world except in America in their lounges.
Yeah.
Well, I got into touring to experience the people, so that's, for me, it's a huge and also extremely attractive difference between what we do here and what we do over there. People generally, sadly, being for a dance show, very warm to you. You're there to bring them something versus being on a rock show. I don't mean to devalue any other show there, but being part of such a attraction, even in places where there was still a little bit of racism on the streets, we're extremely happy to see you.
Okay, now I'm just going to throw this out there. When I was on the road, I traveled with my pillow from home. And wherever I put my head down was always home because I had my pillow. It made perfect sense to me. May not make perfect sense to anybody else, but what do you take with you on the road to give you a peace of mind, a little bit of comfort?
Rollerblades. Being able to commute, being able to throw the skates on and riding out somewhere, feeling like I'm back in the streets of New York.
I used to travel with my skateboard all the time.
Nice.
But then getting, just the baggage restrictions, and I have to travel with one road case, one Pelican. I pretty much dashed that. Never was like the pillow guy or anything, really, just as long as I have my laptop or an iPhone or something, I can converse with my wife. It's pretty much all I need from home. So I know eventually I'll make it back home at some point. We had a lighting guy on one tour that had his teddy bear. Well, it was like a Snoopy dog he had since he was like 3 years old. He would carry with him, and that thing got a bunk one night, and one of my friends had to sleep on the back lounge because it was the first night of the tour. We didn't know who was going to be in what bunk, and we found the Snoopy dog in the bunk, and we figured, well, somebody's going to be staying in that bunk, and my friend's like, well, you know what, I'll just sleep in the back lounge. It ends up it was our lighting guys. He threw the Snoopy dog in his empty bunk. I'm going to say the Snoopy dog got hijacked for a few weeks with photos of ransoms and stuff like that, and the lighting guy was like almost in tears crying, because that was his comfort, his Prozac was that stupid animal. Stuffed animal.
Well, I can remember a story pre 9/11 where there was a sound tech who was having a beef with the lighting tech, and before they got on the airplane, the lighting guy took a black trap, and he cut the profile of a 9mm out of black wrap and stuck it in the sound guy's notebook. So as soon as it went through the X-ray machine, he got pulled aside.
Nice.
But
that's a real good one.
That's awesome.
Pre 9/11, you can get away with some of those shenanigans, but
yeah, I miss taking a 6-pack of beer from Catering, put it in my backpack. I know I was going home. I'm like, I got some beer, just take home. Enjoy.
I got pulled over at every single TSA stop. It was just automatic. I would instantly take out the Earthworks and be like, here you go.
Yeah.
One stop, took out the Galileo. Here you go.
Yeah.
Now, you guys are both audio guys, so you don't use a lot of tools, but what are some of the things you take with you that help you do your job?
You go ahead, Russell, because mine's a short list.
Yeah, I say mine's pretty short. There was, touring the world for 3 years, 9 months at a time, I never allowed my reference mic to travel in a truck or in a sea container. It was always on my back. Laser disto, that's another one that TSA loves to play with. Yeah, I would say those two things are must in my back. And from time to time, an interface.
Generally, my ear monitors I travel with, my ear molds, and if I could get my way, and for weight, you got to remember with the way we have to travel with Beach Boys is cases really need to be under 50 pounds. I mean, with airline status, I can do 70 on United's, and my ear monitor rack weighs 69.5 pounds, and that is not by coincidence. It is by design. I got 6 mixes plus a backup and antenna combiners and backup antennas in that rack to do 69.5 pounds. But I would like to take out my cue box, which really doesn't weigh much, but usually in the long run, I'll have a cue box. I'll have a rat sniffer, like a little cable checker, maybe a little tool bag with some soldering irons, because, day to day I'm fixing something. But I don't know how many times I'm on a gig, sound company A, B, X, Y, Z, and we're having an issue. Do you guys have a cue box? We need to check this line out of the keyboard or something. No, what's that? So I'm like, all right, that's why I would usually bring one, but I can't all the time. I don't have the luxury when I'm traveling with luggage and a case to have another case. And, maybe sometimes I can shove it in my backpack, but I just don't want to get all destroyed. But yeah, cue boxes are good to have. I wish I could travel with it more.
What are a few pieces of gear besides that that you can't get locally if something dies, that an absolute must-have?
That's a good one.
For me, it's the same. My laser disto. I know I'm going to have a hard time trying to find that locally.
Yeah.
Just hopefully I'm around somewhere that where things are open, and I haven't landed on Sunday and internationally, and everything's closed.
Now explain to the folks at home what that is, Russell.
So it's very important for me to be able to walk into a space and know how big the space is. Where am I throwing? At what angle am I throwing? So I'll just have you may have seen it in your Home Depot, small device, shoots a laser, and that then gives you a ping off of a wall and tells you how far away that wall is.
Okay, like a laser rangefinder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I use one with my local sound company quite often. I go in to do install work. Check how far, like Russell said, how far you got to throw something, distances between the main hang and the front pews. I use it to help set delay times, because sometimes I might not have smart available, and I can just just distance it out and get me in the ballpark, and then I'll throw some pink and try to get the times right.
Without that, my loading's a little slower.
Yeah.
Now, I was doing a little club tour, and I had a Parcan rig and some moving lights, and about 20 minutes into the show, 1/3 of my Parcans went out. So I looked over at the distro, and it looked like my leg wasn't hot anymore. And then I lost another third of my lights, and I looked over, and once again the light went out. And by that time, I was panicked. So I ran to the alley. There's a security guard standing there. I pushed for him to get out through the door. And we look out in the alley, and there is a person with wire cutters.
What?
Snipping the feeder live so that they could recycle our copper.
Oh.
What?
Nice.
So that question leads me to, what are some of the biggest horror stories that you have ever had in a live production, besides having to tie in, stop a show, strip back feeder cable, and retie it back into a generator?
Let's see, a tornado going through Staten Island for a live MTV backyard barbecue, blowing the drums off the stage, taking the ear molds, putting them up in the truss on the roof, having a upstage light bar break at the Chicago Theater with about $100,000 of the moving lights crashed down.
Wow.
Minutes before people were standing under. And that was right underneath of the stage. That's where catering was when it came crashing. Bus rear ends catching on fire. Well, that's the bus stories. Burning up. Oh, yeah. Good times like that. Stage collapses, which is always scary.
I don't have any collapses or tornadoes, but I do have 2 earthquakes in 1 year. I know the distinct sound of a theater moving, the distinct look of the stage going one way and the house going the other.
Yeah, I was in an earthquake up in Red Bank, New Jersey, of all, it's East Coast, but that one that hit Virginia a few years ago.
Wow.
I was in the base. I think I was on stage, and I didn't feel it because the stage was one of the little vibrating type, shock stages. But everyone's like, there's an earthquake, get out! Everyone just ran out. But I think if we're in a house, you could feel it.
This is Costa Mesa, California. The building Sagerson building was built exactly for this.
Yeah.
So you would think that all the dampening would make it easy. No, a building bouncing is not fun.
Yeah.
Does that mean you have to refocus all the lights?
It would be my job.
Make sure the PA hangs right.
Right. Sagerson has enough PA. Good place.
Now, I was fixing a motor that was seized up on downstage tower for a stage line truck, and I was out on an extension, a Genie, and we were out over the apron, which was made out of biljack stage, and we just had a downpour, and I had clipped in my safety around the top of the truss right by the motor that I was going to fix, and when the storm was still going through, it was rocking back and forth pretty good, and because of the weight of the stage and the weight of the lift, that front corner of the stage sunk down in the mud, and the whole lift went right over in the front of the field.
Ooh.
And I was left dangling there by the truss, scared witless. Well, what are some of the near misses that you've seen where somebody could have actually really gotten hurt but didn't, or were saved by, the luck of the draw, or somebody actually was hurt because somebody made a bad decision about weather, about rigging, or how something should be wired?
I've been pretty lucky in that respect. Other than that line breaking in Chicago and taking those lights down, that could have been deadly. Because, just minutes before, there was like a dozen people standing under that pipe. And then everybody moved downstage to work on something else, and then it let go. But, like I said, I've been lucky, haven't really witnessed, and I don't want to, have anybody ever get hurt in one of my jobs. I mean, I've had stairs collapse on me going up to risers, because they weren't secured properly. I start walking up, and the stairs just collapsed, but it's only maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. I just got shin got skinned up a little bit. I fell off of plenty of stages before. Especially in some of these casinos, they have a backdrop, and your drum risers are all the way up against the upstage edge, and you're kind of tiptoeing, and you push on the backdrop. You think there might be something solid there, and there's not. And boop, and you go down about 4 feet. So I've had that happen a few times. But, nobody might get hurt.
I've seen a number of technicians hauled back up out of an orchestra pit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I fell. I was winding up a motor cable at PNC, walking the downstage edge, and I was just tired. It was like third day of the tour. We're just beat. So we had way too much gear for the trucks and stuff, and I just lost my balance and went chest first into the front row and cracked a rib. It hurt like hell, but all I could do was laugh. I was like, I can't believe I did that. And then the next night I'm at Jones Beach, and I'm reading the pack list, getting the trucks packed, and I trip on something, and I go, like roll a few times.
Wow.
And I got up, and I'm like, I'm okay. Like I looked like a pit bull got a hold of me the first 4 or 5 days. I was just beaten, battered, and bloody, and skinned up. It's just part of touring. It happens. You beat yourself up out there.
So we've talked a lot about a lot of different things here tonight, but we haven't talked about catering. Now, do you prefer a catering company that goes with the tour and caters each and every event, or do you prefer to leave it up to chance and have the local catering company service all of your meals?
Oh, I could write a book about this one. On the UK tour, I was just on. We had our catering company with us. We had full production, including catering. So they had a menu. They would come to you. What would you like? Oh, I want this. They had little appetizers. It was top notch. Playing county fairs out in no man's land, Iowa, whatever, and you're up to your chance. It could be real scary. And I will say this much: there's a lot of bad pizza out there for loadout food. Stuff they call pizza is just, it's not pizza, but
especially in Germany.
Yeah, but it seems like with the Beach Boys, a lot of times we get in a rut with our catering. It's like every day there's a fish dish. It's usually salmon. There's a vegetarian dish, and there's chicken. Every day, it's that. And some days we're like, you know what? It looks okay, but screw it. I'm going across the street and eat. We'll take our options elsewhere. But normally it's okay. I mean, I will literally eat anything. I am not a fussy eater. I just don't want flies on my food. That's my biggest gripe. Yes, a lot of outside places, it's the lack of fly cover. I was up in Wisconsin, some rock festival back in the 90s, and I was deathly ill from eating bad ice cream at a venue, out of one of those little ice cream machines. And I was, I want some watermelon. Maybe I can keep that down. And I looked, man, there's a lot of seeds on the watermelon.
Man.
Totally covered. The flies were trying to pick the watermelon up, take it. And they had all this venison and stuff. And I'm covered with flies, And I was like, oh, man, really? Yeah. So just keep the flies off the food. And if it's supposed to be cold, keep it cold. Some things I'm really leery about eating just because of stuff being left out for too long. But, my only thing is no milk. I just won't drink raw milk, not because I'm allergic. It just grosses me out.
Chocolate milk was a staple of every single stop. We had to find the guy and send him out, and you must bring back chocolate milk. That was our thing.
Yeah.
Big time. If you didn't have chocolate milk, there was hell to pay.
Yeah.
Is it a rule that lunch for every load-in has to be cold cuts? Is that a general rule?
That's another beef. No pun intended, but it's another gripe. It's we call it flat meat sandwiches.
Flat meat sandwiches.
Yeah, it's we don't want to see that. We want something hot. And I love grilled cheeses. I would love to see grilled cheeses more often. Another pet peeve is lack of olive oil. I know it's on the rider. We need olive oil. They say, well, it's just for dinner. No, I want olive oil for lunch too. I want to have a salad for lunch.
Now, speaking of, what's the craziest thing that's on the rider for the Beach Boys?
There really isn't anything other than maybe that kombucha tea or something.
Yeah. Like
an old vinegar sweat sock. Yeah. I mean, I can drink anything, eat anything, man. That stuff there, I just can't do that. That stuff's gnarly.
Especially the green one.
Yeah.
No bowl of just red M&Ms or anything like that?
No, the only reason Van Halen did the brown M&Ms is to make sure they were going to read the rider. It was a barometer of how your day is going to be. One of my barometers of how my day is going to be, the condition of the microphone stands. If you walk in and the microphone stands are absolutely beat to hell, chances are you're going to have a rough day. Because if they can't take care of the mic stands, they're not taking care of anything else in that rig.
Space in the dock. If I come in, there's no space in the dock. I know what kind of day I'm going to have.
Yeah.
Now, how about you, Russell? What's the craziest thing on the Alvin Ailey rider?
Well, I just gave it away. It's chocolate milk. That's it. Nothing terribly crazy. The crew has different tastes than the dancers. I unfortunately was very lucky. See, per stop, or nearly every third stop or so, would be a gigantic gala dinner. So we ate very, very well.
Now, to this day, I can't listen to Tchaikovsky because I did the Nutcracker Suite with the Atlanta Ballet for almost 3 months for 5 years straight.
Yeah.
I can't hear that again. But like Alvin Ailey, when you do that, it's a canned show, right? And
no, so, luckily a lot of this there's room for dispelling of this. It's not completely a canned show. It might be a canned show on the road in the U.S., but when we had City Center, we do about a week of live music. There's an orchestra there. The same at Lincoln Center. There's some live works there. And my farewell tour with them was Duke Ellington piece, a number of his pieces, with the Tivoli Band in Copenhagen, and that was all live.
Well, I can tell you that whenever I hear a Backstreet Boys song, I can remember the lighting cues.
I was in Tijuana for dinner, and this is years ago, and out of some bar I heard Rock Lobster, and I literally went up and pulled out my ears as I was walking down the road, because that was always the last song, was Rock Lobster. And I'm just walking on, all of a sudden I heard down, and I went up and like this, and I said, holy, I'm not mixing, I'm not wearing ears. This is like, muscle memory sort of thing.
Wow.
Like, the last song of the Beach Boys is fun, fun, fun. As I like to say, done, done, done. Take
right.
the outs and get on the side of the stage, wait for them to come off to collect all the equipment.
I'll find like mechanical memory. There are a couple pieces that Avanelli has, a company itself has ballets choreographed to that are popular, and I'll find my fingers sort of going through the motions of what I'll do in space. Like, wait, and just put them away.
Now, Russell, were you using canned music, or was there a symphony or orchestra for each and every show?
Not each and every show. By and large, it's canned music. They recently moved over to QLab, but as I said, my last stop with them, every show included. I don't know if you've been to Copenhagen. For the Tivoli Band there is amazing. Like, literally, watch them receive the sheet music, Ellington, and just get going.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep. The Beach Boys do orchestra shows. We do several a year. Our musical director, sends out the charts, and we usually meet. That's an early end for us, and normally I take about 7 stems from front of house and just mix it in with the band. And give a little mix to the conductor and some of the key players in the orchestra. But I like doing the orchestra stuff because it's just different. It gives you a different perspective on the music.
Well, that's interesting. How do you incorporate? What's your technique for incorporating an orchestra with a live band? Do you do overhead condenser microphones, or how do you mic an orchestra and bring it into your mix?
Well, normally we place these symphony houses. And they already have a sound system there. They bring one in, and they have a guy that mixes. Usually the orchestra is mixed on another board. We have the front of house board for the Beach Boys. We got the monitor board for the Beach Boys. So he'll send 7 stems out to front of house, which can also go to monitors. And normally it's high strings, low strings, brass, percussion, woodwinds, cello, and harp. And the orchestra guy will mix those, give them to us, and we'll just kind of just blend those in.
Wow, that's cool. How about you, Russell? Do you ever do a combination of the orchestra and canned music, or is it either or?
It was typically either or.
Now, with you, you probably also travel with a stage manager calling the shots between lighting and sound cues, right?
I did. Yeah, that's a big difference between us.
Right. So, how is it working with the stage manager?
Depends on the piece. There are a number of times where we do these live things. City Center will be one of them. Lovely place, gigantic D&B house, and my favorite console Studio Vista 5. Sounds amazing. In which I have to give the go. Essentially, or I can hear what's going on. They're backstage, the curtains down, but I'm more aware of the orchestra's ready to go. Much more of it falls in my hands.
Okay. And John, you pretty much take the cues from the band.
Yeah, pretty much. They look at me, and it's funny because a lot of times I'm just sitting there staring at them because they don't really ask for them. It can vary night to night. Depends, how much low end they're hearing off of the PA and stuff. But normally my files are set where it's pretty close. Usually, if there's an issue, we get it in sound check. Unless something drastic happens during the show where the crowd is really really loud, or the room changes drastically, they might ask for some stuff. Normally, I'm just sitting there staring at them, just waiting for them to ask for something. That's my job as a monitor engineer. If they're not asking for anything, I'm happy.
Right.
And if something breaks, I go out and fix it. We travel with the front of house guy monitors, somebody doing VIP guest lists, guitar tech, and a lighting engineer that also does video.
You didn't touch on that, but being able to fix your own stuff is an absolute essential on the road.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I was a trained factory trained Martin tech for a couple of tours, and
Awesome.
besides doing load in and load out, between times I was fixing moving lights.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
So and that was back when Martins and high end was kind of new, so it was a fairly substantial failure rate with that gear.
Well, I remember when Very Lights came out, they had their own room in the arenas to fix them because it was all like top secret stuff. No one could see it. It's back in like in the 80s. They spirited the broken fixture away, and they went back there and did whatever they could do to bring it back to life, and hopefully no one saw the secrets. Like the little people living inside of it, making it work.
Well, back when it was back when Very Light started, there was just so much equipment that it took to make like a VL7 work. There was a smart repeater and the cable and the light and the power, and there was so much different gack that went together. It was painful.
Yeah, but they look cool. Yeah.
My biggest repairs, I had the pleasure of them happening while I was in Berkeley with my Maya gear, so it was very easy. So ringing the doorbell. Hi, can you fix this?
All right, well, John and Russell, we're reaching the end of our time here together this evening. Is there anything else you would like to wrap with as far as what's good or bad for each one of you as far as live touring? What's your favorite thing? John, I'll start with you.
Really, over the years made a lot of friends out on the road, catching up with them. Some of my friends from my area in Virginia that moved away, getting to see them. I've always enjoyed touring. The hardest thing being away from my family, but I try to bring them out whenever possible. My wife came to the UK. She was over there for 9 days. So, the negatives are the airline travels and the toll it takes on your body, and just the boredom sometimes of waiting for something to happen as far as like between your downtime. You can be incredibly bored at times, but for me, it's just all about, I do like to travel. It's kind of ironic. Don't like the airplanes, but I like to travel.
Same here.
But I like, I love going to Europe. I like, getting days off in the city, going exploring, checking things out, going to see other concerts. I got to see The Elephant Man starring Bradley Cooper when I was in London. That was pretty cool. I got free tickets to it and stuff. We did a ticket exchange with their cast. So you get it's a good life, but it's like you said, it's not like as glamorous as everybody makes it out to be. And there's a lot of getting up at 3 or 4 a.m. and a lot of waking up in the parking lots.
But guys, there's nothing we haven't touched on. I just think it's funny. You ever had you're talking to someone and they want to know about your touring life and how is it, and they ask you a few questions, and like question number 3 or 4 is, but isn't it so lonely? Like it's kind of this whole thing. Like they start here, your job must be so cool, and but isn't it lonely? Like always at a time, always wait for that. Always wait for that one. But you must be so lonely, and that's the truth of it.
And thank God for Skype and technology and be able to, talk to my wife, via phone. And I have a newborn baby, so I'm 5 months old. Be able to see her.
Yeah.
And thankful for the technology.
I I was rocking a Palm 7 with a fold-out antenna so I could check my flights.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember touring back in the day, man. It's like you're lucky if there was a cell phone or something. We got to pull the bus over. We got to use the phone to advance shows. Let's pull over this truck stop. Go to a payphone.
I remember sometimes walking into an arena and looking at the closest guy next to me and asking, "Where am I? What city is this? I don't even know."
Valid question sometimes.
Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah, because they all look the same after a while. And then especially if you come back to that arena not too long after. You're going, I think I was just here before.
Yeah.
A sense of deja vu.
Yeah, yes. That is very, very true.
All right, so it looks like we're about out of time here. We're going to wrap up the show. Is there a website or a way that we can find out some more information about Bracken Sound or?
Bracken Audio, it's brackenaudio.com. My studio is redvelvetrecordingstudio.com. And that's about it as far as my web presence. churchsoundinstallation.com, I have that one too, but that's kind of linked to Bracken Audio. But cause I'm gone like 230 days a year, so during that time I do a couple installs a year. I can try to fit them in whenever possible.
Can we find you on CrewSpace?
Yeah, actually I'm on CrewSpace and BobNets and I haven't been on CrewSpace in a while. I'm on there too.
How about you, Russell?
How about me? What?
Where can we find you on the web?
I'm not on the web, so I'm
Is
sorry.
there anything that you would like to plug this evening before we say goodbye?
No. While I'm no longer with them, they're still a great show. You should see the Alvin Ailey American Dance Company. They're playing Lincoln Center for another week, and then they'll be in Paris for about a month, where my girlfriend still is a social lighting director, and I'll get to go out there for about 2 weeks.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. This has been another edition of The Live Life, hosted by AV Washington, or AV Washington, AV Nation. AV Washington is a company that I subcontract for. Slip of the tongue.
Good ad there. Good placement.
Nice promo insert.
Nice promo insert. Avitecture is what they're actually called. AV Washington, if I call them that, they get very upset. George, is there anything you'd like to plug before you take us out?
Okay, well, thank you guys for watching. This is a production of AV Nation. You can find shows like this about topics of the pro AV world at avnation.tv. Look for shows for DIY, The Lighting Guy, all kinds of shows about this stuff. And thank our underwriters. When you visit the page, you'll see them listed there. AV Nation is supported by you guys, but in order to keep the costs low and not have to go hat in hand to you people all the time, we have underwriters. And we appreciate them. We hope that you do too. So please go visit their websites and ask them a few questions.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good show, everyone.
All right.
That was a lot of fun.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.